To sacrifice one's humanity to safeguard the realms of mankind is the practice of the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines. Altered to become transhuman killing machines, indoctrinated into the most meticulous of ideologies, trained in the arts of war. For one such as them, to take a life is as simple as breathing. They are the warriors of the Emperor of Mankind, his bulwark against the darkness, his sword and shield. Yet even they are not immune to the plights that face the Imperium of Mankind in the 41st millennium. Some yet fall to the forces of chaos, others too turn to the path of the renegade. Others remain loyal, yet in their cult-like fanaticism lose more humanity than those they deem the enemy. Others, however, cling to their humanity, their faith and their virtues, even while their gene-coded bodies succumb to the curses that plague them from their moment of indoctrination. Sable blindness, the wolfen, the red thirst. Yet one chapter to tears on the brink of damnation even as they fight their very natures. One chapter of Astartes that lives beneath a veneer of a lie, a falsehood, formed and maintained under the threat of annihilation and the eternal sacrifice of its greatest heroes. For should they fail, but for a single moment, the entire chapter would fall into the clutches of the arch-enemy. They are the blood drinkers, and among the sons of Sanguinius they are utterly singular. Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Azazel, and for better or worse, you have stumbled onto my entry on the Blood Drinker's Curse. A chapter of Astartes rather unique among their brethren for reasons we will jump into. But then again, the Blood Angels do have some cracking successor chapters with tidbits of lore. Before we begin, there is no AI used on this channel. All mistakes are entirely my own. Do drop a like or comment if you feel like I've earned it. It goes a long way for a channel as small as my own, and I'm always open to constructive criticism. So feel free to give advice, just don't be an ass about it. I also apologise for my voice. It was the England-Norway game last night, so I'm feeling a little rough today. With that said, steel your hearts and gird your minds as we enter the most horrific place imaginable. The place where hope goes to die and where thirsting gods rack the souls of billions, while directing madness on the stage of our galaxy as easily as puppeteers pull on strings. Welcome to the 41st millennium. On the surface, this chapter bears little in the way of distinction from its brethren Astartes. Armoured in blood red, arrayed with long rolls of battle honours throughout the millennia, and burdened by the twin curses of the Red Thirst and the Black Rage. To any and all, both ignorant and less so, they appear to be just another iteration of Sanguinius's sons, blood angels in all but name and heraldry. Yet, upon immediate inspection, one thing is different about these scions of the Great Angel. Where other chapters of the Blood must continually fight against the ever-increasing numbers of those who fall to the Black Rage, the Blood Drinkers do not. That is not to say that they do not have a death company, with those noble spirits who are blessed with visions of Sanguinius, but rather they have a surprisingly small one. Where the flesh tearers battle extinction every year as they lose themselves to the bloodlust and the Black Rage, the Blood Drinkers somehow maintain exceedingly good functionality as a chapter. Nor is this a temporary aspect, like that of the Lamenters, who somehow seemed to avoid the dual curses of the blood for a time after their founding, and yet later suffered the same as their other brother chapters. The Blood Drinkers have kept this trend steady for nigh on 3,500 years, and continue to have only a handful who fall to the Black Rage. Yet it was not always this way. Once the chapter was on the brink of extinction. The Black Rage ravaged their numbers in ways that would make the flesh-tearers gawk. Acolytes would no sooner have completed their initiation rites when they would descend into the bloodthirsty madness of the Black Rage. It took one Astartes to change the chapter forever. Holos, a battle brother of the Blood Drinkers, introduced to his brethren a rite that would settle the Black Rage, that would keep it at bay, and protect the chapter from the worst of its clutches. And in doing so, he risked his honor, his life, and that of the entire chapter. The Rite of Holos is a dark ritual of exsanguination and blood sacrifice, overseen by the chaplains of the chapter, garbed in their dark, skulled armor, and the sanguinary priests. It consists of blood given, a brother's heart sacrificed, and a life forcibly taken. In the chambers of sacrifice, marble polished to a blood-red sheen, and fiery censers dispensing the smoky heat of their homeworld, stands an altar laid out in the blood drop of the chapter. Channels cut into the floor that form a chalice. They lead from 30 alcoves along the walls to the altar. The altar itself is designed with meticulous care and precision, its craftsmanship a masterpiece of beauty and efficiency, big enough to rest a man upon. Therein, even more channels are cut that correspond with the victim's major arteries, should they be placed upon the altar and bled. Carotid, femoral, ulnar, radial, their precision, an unnerving dissonance between grace and ghastliness. On one side of the room stand the battle brothers of the Blood Drinkers, facing the altar. For most, all rank is forgotten. They stand as one in the flushing heat of the hall, so reminiscent of the lava canyons of Sanguisiga, that pumps the blood of all the mortals ever harder. So begins the ritual in what the Blood Drinkers so ironically label the Hall of Life. As chapter serfs enter the hall, their bodies withered and wasting, surgically implanted tubes extending from their bodies, taps to provide the chapter with what sustains them, human life turned to nothing more than a walking blood bag. Presiding above all among the ritual is a sanguinary master, who reminds the Blood Drinkers of their dark history, their salvation at the hands of Holos, and in commencing the ritual he declares, "The blood is the key. Denial is not the answer. We shall not quake before our appetites as our brother chapters do, but take them to our hearts. The monster within us cannot be defeated. It cannot be denied. But it can be fed. It can be sated. And if sated, its strength can be borrowed. The blood is life." With that, hundreds of human serfs activate the taps from the alcoves they stand upon at the side, and allow their blood to run freely down the channels towards the center of the altar. The sanguinary master then brings forth a human heart, the preserved pulmonary piece of a fallen battle brother, and with a word ignites the heart upon the altar until it falls to ash amidst the running blood of the serfs that begins to accumulate in the center of the Hall of Life. And finally comes the blood tithe, a human brought forth unwillingly to perform as tribute in this dark and bloody ritual. Not a serf, for all mortals who serve the chapter do so willingly, and would give themselves to their blood drinker masters without a question should the need arise. This human is always an individual snatched away from their home, their family, their world, kept in stasis, serving only this moment in their miserable lives. For this ritual is as much spiritual as it is physical. What is sacrifice if it is freely given? For the rite of Holos to work, the mortality and lifeblood must be torn from an unwilling host. For only death can pay for a reprieve of the blood drinkers' eternal hungers. And so the sacrifice is brought forth, bound and gagged, forced upon the altar and fixed spread-eagled, as the transhuman warriors around him chant dark liturgies and began to drool down their extended canines, their appetites impatient for the feast to come. Out of the altar erupt blades that cut along the sacrifice's major arteries, the heat of the room dilating all major bloodways, the thrashing of agony and horror pulsating the victim's heart until the blood gushes in a torrent out of them and mixes with the blood given and the Astartes' heart sacrificed. Then, and only then, do the chapter serfs retreat from the Hall of Life and allow their masters to live up to their chapter's name, where, as one, they feast upon the body of the victim and imbibe the combined lifebloods that proliferate the altar and the chamber itself. It is only when all has been consumed and the desperate urges of the thirst have passed, and what semblance of humanity remains returns to them, do they beg forgiveness for the lives they have taken. There, a mess of blood and flesh and gore and viscera, do they reaffirm their oaths to the Golden Throne and to the Emperor of Mankind. For they are the monsters that humanity feeds to nurture the darkness, and yet relies upon for salvation. While the blood drinkers enjoy a margin of protection against the Black Rage, and an incidental increase of the Red Thirst, one question remains. How did Holos discover this practice and share it with his brethren? For Holos was not chapter master when he saved the chapter from extinction, nor was he a psyker with any form of warp ability or experience that could guide him through forbidden knowledge or rituals. The truth is a deceptive creature indeed. As official stories go, Holos was a battle brother of the blood drinkers. Not a hero, not a legend, merely a line Astartes. Yet, he witnessed the horrors of the chapter. Brother after brother falling into the pits of the Black Rage, the Death Company growing to a frightening number. Fellow brethren turning at the drop of a hat. The blood drinkers verging on internal collapse should matters continue, or even inquisitorial retribution, should one of their number succumb in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then he dreamed. A peculiar dream, unlike any other before. It called to him, beckoned him towards its fulfillment. He knew that the cure to his chapter's curse lay at the top of Mount Calicium. An angelic figure awaited his ascent. Through fire and flame, through the lava flows and the Astorgai-infested landscape, some noble savior awaited him. Despite his most valiant protestations, the council chapter refused his self-proclaimed quest. It was only after a secret council with Reclusiarch Shanandar that Holos dismissed the chapter council's orders and heeded the call of his dream figure. The climb of Mount Calicium is not one to be underestimated. It is an arduous and torturous landscape, death to any mortal due to its unforgiving nature, the relentless heat of the ever-flowing streams of lava that change course under tectonic instability, the gaseous plumes that erupt from underground fissures that can suffocate in seconds, and finally, the Astorgai, vile, wicked Xenos creatures whose claws can tear apart even Astartes' armor. Flocks of them roamed Mount Calicium freely, and over them all reigned Lotan, lord of the Astorgai. A Xenos many times larger than his brethren, one whom had terrorized the slopes of Mount Calicium for as long as any could remember. 4 battle brothers had previously set out to eliminate this lord of the Astorgai, and none had ever returned. If Holos wished to ascend to the peak of the mountain, he would have to kill the one being that none in his chapter had ever survived. Through canyons and crags, magma and monsters, Holos climbed. As he approached the peak, he fought Lotan, the lord of the Astorgai, and defeated him, although it cost him much to do so. After the fight, his lifeblood dripped from him, leaving a trail beyond. His armor had cracked and broken until it was largely unresponsive, merely more dead weight for his flagging body to carry up to the peak. Blood loss and fatigue overwhelmed him. He shed armor pieces as he crawled onwards towards the peak, and his blood continued to litter the ground amidst the smoke and salt of Mount Calicium. There, it is said that he met with a winged figure, assumed to be part of the spirit of their sire, Sanguinius. He resurrected Holos at the moments of his near death and gifted unto him the secret to surviving the ravages of the Black Rage, should they dare to take the path. The secrets, to the right of Holos, near tore the Blooddrinker's chapter in two when he returned and presented them to his brethren. Many rejected his teachings, or were horrified at the dark blood rituals that Holos demanded. And yet, fear won. Many of those who would normally have disdained such practices were desperate for a way to survive, to allow their chapter to bring more honor to the Imperium. Thus it was in their desperation that they acceded to the rites of Holos, formed the chapter around these practices of bloodletting and sacrifice, and saved themselves from the brink of annihilation while doing so, which would be a worthy sacrifice, were it not so incredibly wrong. For Holos is not the savior of the Blooddrinkers, but its damnation. In adopting the rites of Holos, each and every one of the chapter is marked as accursed, and while they have not fallen yet, they will, one day, fall to the dark designs of the arch-enemy. For Holos did not meet a part of the spirit of Sanguinius at the top of Mount Calicium. What he met there was indeed winged, yet something far more wicked. Kairos Fateweaver, the Oracle of Tzeentch, awaited Holos at the top of Mount Calicium. There, bathed in light, faking nobility, and bringing sanity and health to the ailing and failing Holos, he spoke to him. He offered Holos salvation and possibility. That the Black Rage could be held at bay by his decree for as long as the chapter abided by the rites of Holos. Holos, in his desperation, agreed. Yet there would be one more caveat. For as long as the Blooddrinkers abided by this dark ritual, their rage would be contained, yes. However, once every age, Blooddrinkers suffering from the Black Rage would relive Holos's journey up Mount Calicium. There, they would once again speak with Kairos, and Kairos would offer them a second salvation, if only they would cast off their loyalties to the Emperor and swear themselves to Tzeentch and unending change. Those that refuse are cursed to relive Holos's journey each time one of their brethren joins them on the unwilling journey. Herein, the chapter, linked as one by the rite of Holos, are represented by these individuals. Should one ever succumb to the temptations of Tzeentch, then the entire chapter will become damned by their actions. For those rare few among the Blooddrinkers who face this challenge, it is a never-ending battle of honor against agony. None can know the truth of this trial until they face it themselves. Only the Reclusiarchs know of the truth. In an unbroken line from Shannon-Dar, the first one who spoke with Holos, they understand the stakes at play when it comes to the trials. so must they watch each and every blood drinker who falls to the Black Rage. For should one face the trials of Holos once more and be found wanting, the entire chapter would fall into damnation. In case anyone is wondering, the vast majority of these details can be found in the book Death of Integrity by Guy Haley, a book that is incredibly well known, but usually for different reasons. Mostly the Spirit of Eternity, but that is for a different entry. I wanted to focus on this one and have a brief chat about it afterwards. Brief caveat here before someone shouts at me. In this entry, I said that Holos spoke with the Reclusiarch Shanandar before they went up the mountain, and it is implied that that is the timeline within the book. However, strictly speaking, the Reclusiarch wouldn't know what actually happened unless he spoke with Holos after Holos returned. So you can make up your mind about the timeline, I'm just putting it out there now. One thing I've noticed about making videos like this and reading and rereading the source material, it has definitely made me reevaluate initial opinions on stories. Initially, it seemed like a fairly cut and dry decision. Holos fell out of weakness and damned his entire chapter because of it. How many Space Marines have chosen to spit in the face of a Chaos Prophet hand and chosen death over life? It's the standard trope for many a story. Mankind's hatred of everything trumps everything else. And depending upon the story, it either ends up as a noble or a stupid decision. But nevertheless, most novels immediately reject any form of chaos, Xenos, or other aligned aid. And so, if we were reading a book done on Holos, made from scratch, and watching him hear this offer of chaotic salvation, the immediate expectation is that a Space Marine would reject this. But he doesn't. Well, I thought it seemed a bit weird, until I was reading and rereading the entries, because from Holos's point of view, it is not an outright damning of the chapter. Yes, there's also the fatigue, the injury, the hopelessness of watching his brother Astartes fall in ever-increasing numbers to the Black Rage, but his decision to make a deal with Kairos is an indirect way, as far as he's concerned. Holos saves the chapter by enacting a ritual, which seems to link the chapter together in some way, but does not damn it. Technically speaking, the only person who will damn the chapter is whoever falls to the Rage in the future and makes a deal with Kairos Fateweaver. Now, admittedly, this is a technicality. We all know that most Space Marines would take responsibility for something like this in a heartbeat. What Holos has done is essentially pass on the problem to a future blood drinker to deal with. But from his point of view, at least there will be future blood drinkers. Now this is all a moot point. Things are all said and done by now, but it definitely made me think a little more about it. And while I did initially start this entry planning on slating Holos for being a weak Space Marine and succumbing, but somewhere along the way I suppose I committed the sin of empathy, as some people are saying nowadays. But what do you guys think? Did Holos do the right thing? Is it better to safeguard a temporary future and trust in other blood drinkers to resist the fall to chaos? Or should Holos have simply let them all fall to the Black Rage and let the chapter die out with its spirit intact? With all that said and done, I hope you enjoyed some escapism from reality today. For that's why we are all here, isn't it? Do please leave a like and a comment if you have 10 seconds to spare, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Now, TTFN. Until next time.